Hello and welcome to our new series we're going to be trying out here on this channel. In this series, we will be showcasing historical items and sharing the stories that come along with them. So if you enjoy history, especially military history related content, be sure to click that subscribe button and the bell of notification to be notified when we post new videos. You're not going to want to miss any of the incredible pieces of history we will be showcasing in future episodes. In this episode, we will be showing a few unique pieces of history that belong to a Norwegian immigrant who would go on to become an American hero during an all but forgotten naval battle in one of history's most overlooked wars. Hans Johnson was born on January 3rd, 1865 in Norway. Unfortunately, there is little known about his early life, but he would go on to live in America and join the United States Navy, where he would serve as a chief machinist on the USS Winslow, a steam-powered foot-class torpedo boat that was built December 29, 1897 in Norfolk Navy Yard. She was armed with 3 1-pound guns and 3 18-inch torpedo tubes and had a crew of 20 sailors, including 2 officers. After the sinking of the armored cruiser USS Maine at the Havana Harbor in Cuba on February 15, 1898, an event that contributed to the outbreak of the Spanish-American War, the USS Winslow was ordered to Key West, Florida to be closer to Cuba in case the situation escalated to war. April 21st, 1898 would mark the date that the Spanish-American War officially kicked off. The Winslow, with Hans Johnson, would then be sent to Cuba, patrolling the northern coast near Havana, Cardenas, and Matanzas. The Winslow would engage in battle with 3 Spanish gunboats on the 8th of May, forcing the Spanish ships back into the harbor of Cardenas. On the morning of the 11th, the Winslow left her blockade state of Matanzas and proceeded to Cardenas for replenishment of coal. The Winslow was to report to the USS Wilmington for the coal. Upon doing so, she was ordered to take a Cuban pilot and scout to the entrance of the Cardenas Bay to search for mines. During high tide, around 1 p.m., the Hudson, Wilmington, and the USS Winslow steamed slowly through the narrow passage. Wilmington's captain, Commander Coleman Todd, sent Hudson in search of the gunboats on the eastern side of the bay and ordered the Winslow to search the western side. Later, Winslow and Wilmington rendezvoused 3,500 yards off Cardenas, where Commander Todd spied the enemy gunboats moored at the city's waterfront. Todd directed Winslow's commander, Lieutenant John Baptiste Bernadotte, to investigate the situation. The Winslow seemed perfectly suited to capture or destroy the Spanish gunboats, with her 1-pound rapid-fire guns, torpedoes, and a draw of only 5 feet. As the original battle plan started to deteriorate, the Winslow turned her stern toward Cardenas to minimize the exposure to enemy fire and in order to use her stern-mounted torpedo and allow for a fast exit strategy. But as soon as Winslow came within 1,500 yards of the city's wharves, the enemy gunners opened fire with 1-pound guns from the moored gunboats, and salvos fired from the heavy artillery hidden along Cardenas' waterfront. By 2 p.m., the Spanish gunboats and artillery had fired on the Winslow, the Hudson, and the distant Wilmington. The Spanish guns were raining down shells. The enemy positions were tough to spot because the Spanish used smokeless powder ammunition. The Americans still relied on the outdated black powder, which clouded the gun crew's vision and alerted the enemy to incoming shells. Spanish gunners focused their fire on the Winslow, shooting down its smokestack and ventilator, holing its armored conning tower and disabling the steering and engines. The first shot to score on the torpedo boat destroyed both her steam and manual steering gear. Her crew tried to rig an auxiliary steering system, but she swung broadside to the enemy, and a shot pierced her hull near the engine room and knocked the port main engine out of commission. Braving the escaping steam from the destroyed engine and the enemy fire, Chief Machinist Hans Johnson was able to turn off the engine and prevent a catastrophic failure that very well could have killed the entire crew of the Winslow. She maneuvered with her remaining engine to evade enemy fire and maintained a steady return fire with her 1-pounders. The Wilmington and Hudson brought their guns to bear on the Spanish ship and shore, and the combined fire of the 3 American warships put the Spanish tugboat out of action. Now crippled, the Winslow was caught in an onshore wind that was pushing her towards the shore. Bernadotte called out to the approaching Hudson, "I am injured, haul me out." The Hudson's commander reacted instantly, steering his ship through a muddy, shallow water. The cutter came in close while Ensign Bagley and several other of Winslow's crew stood on the deck to receive a heaving line from the Hudson, and its enemy fire intensified. Ensign Bagley yelled out, "Heave her, let her come, it's getting pretty hot here." By the time the Hudson closed the distance, an enemy shell exploded on Winslow, killing Ensign Bagley and an enlisted man and mortally wounding 3 crew members. Sailors John Barberes, John Daniels, George B. Meek, and E.B. Tunnell These men were the first casualties of the Spanish-American War, and Ensign Bagley would be the first American officer killed in the war. Despite the enemy shelling, unfavorable winds, and shallow water, the Hudson's crew managed to secure a 3-inch tow line to the Winslow and began towing her out of range. Within minutes, the tow line snapped due to either strain or an incoming shell. The Hudson's commander persevered, exclaiming, "We will make it fast this time." Risking his own vessel and crew a second time, Hudson's engineers never missed an engine order bell during the cutter's fast-changing steam engine operations. Meanwhile, the cutter's deck crew secured a line to Winslow and made fast the torpedo boat beside the cutter in tugboat fashion. This time, Newcomb succeeded in hauling the stricken vessel beyond the range of enemy guns. The fighting lasted only an hour and a half, by which time the American ships were forced to withdraw. In the aftermath of the Battle of Cardenas, which would be considered a significant victory for the Spanish only suffered heavy damage to one armed tugboat, and only 2 Spanish sailors were wounded. American casualties numbered 5 dead and 3 wounded during the battle, thus ending one of the first naval clashes of the Spanish-American War. In recognition of his heroic deeds at Cardenas, Hans Johnson would later receive the Medal of Honor. He would stay in the United States Navy, reaching the rank of lieutenant in 1918. Hans Johnson passed away a short 2 years later on June 17, 1920, at the age of 55. An immigrant to American hero. We hope you enjoyed this first installment of the History Showcase series we're going to be trying out here. And if you did, please go ahead and click that subscribe button, click the like button, and the bell notification if you want to be notified when we upload new videos. Until next time, guys, thanks for tuning in.